T-Man 978 Chill Review. Hello everyone! I'm going to be reviewing Masterpiece Megatron. The Takara Tomy version, because that's the only version that even exists. Anywho, there's his packaging. There's the bottom of his packaging where you see some details down there. You see the gun mode right there. You see it laying on this like velvet red cloth right there. Inconspicuously, they're covering up his lower half. I wonder why they did that. Anywho, here's the bottom of the box showing you Masterpiece Starscream and Optimus, the only other two molds that were out at the time. Markings right there. This right there, him holding his sword. And right here, the back of the packaging with all the Asian writing right there. Product shots right there. Original Megatron image right about there. Him fighting Masterpiece Optimus. Him and his other various little things. And what you get inside. And let's open this guy. Inside you get a nice little bio card right there. It's not really all that thick, but it's glossy and nice. You can see his tech specs and whatnot on the back. And if you understand, what is this? I always hear kanji. You could know which actual tech specs these are. I'm going to imagine that 4 is for speed since he transforms into a gun. But anywho, you get a nice instruction manual that's in color, no less. Get some nice details and show episode little pictures right there. Of course, you get the instructions, then you get more product shots and cartoon images right there. Next, I'm getting deja vu. Anywho, you get this nice pistol right there. It's kind of thin. It's the gun that he shot Optimus with while he was holding Hot Rod. It's nice chrome paint right there. It's hard plastic. It's not bendable at all. It even has a hole in the barrel. Looks very realistic. You get this nicely detailed sword. Look at that. With this blazing laser effect that comes out. There's a silver rim at the top right there. Detailed handle. Sculpted. So this is when it's not on. This is when it's on. Nice thick piece of plastic. You also get a ball and chain mace made with plastic chain links. Transparent plastic. And this, you can't like pose it or anything. It's just a wibbly wobbly chain. And lastly, you get Crimzeek from the episode Crimzeek of the Generation 1 cartoon. He was a maniacal living electronic gremlin. And he could go inside of robots and cause mayhem and malfunctions inside their body. Crimzeek! There's that. And now let's get to the main event. 4 years after my purchase of 20th anniversary Masterpiece Optimus Prime, I waited and waited for Masterpiece Megatron to be produced and released so I could get him and line him up with my Optimus Prime and they could do battle in my display case. And 4 years later, I used $100 of my tax return and I purchased Masterpiece Megatron. Although I had access to the internet and I knew about everything about Masterpiece Megatron before I actually purchased him, I opened the box and this is what I expected. This is what I received. A gangly, tall mess. I mean, he looks good and he was what he was at the time since there was no other option. I bought him 7 years ago, and for 7 years I've been trying to convince myself that this isn't a $100 train wreck. Here he is, Megatron, Masterpiece Megatron in all his glory. And here he is holding, and there's one issue I have right off top. This massive fusion cannon his arms can barely hold that. I mean, if you're patient and put it like that and let go, he can keep it. But as soon as you let go and start moving him, boom, that arm flops and it spins around because of gravity. Here he is holding that little gun I was talking about earlier. And his finger can actually go and get on that trigger right there, which is actually cool. Let me take it out of his hand so I can show you his sword. It pegs in right there, that's the peg, and it pegs into a little slot right there. Sword does the same thing. There's a little peg right there. You put it in here. Come on. Wrap the fingers around. Now he has his laser sword. But his arms have such a low range of motion. He barely looks good holding it. And I collapsed this panel right here, which is supposed to fluff out to make his arms look more beefy, but they just collapse right back in, which is frustrating. Right here I have his mace chain pegged in, but you just pop that right off. Open this panel and bring his hands out. And he has fingers that each individual finger opens up. Even his thumb moves on a ball joint. But his hands stay in a curled arthritic pose right there, which makes it kind of useless to have 5 individual fingers that open. I mean, it's kind of cool depending on how you pose it. I guess you could put him in a grabbing type pose right there, but yeah. Close up on his face, and like I said, this panel closes up. Here's his face. It's good. This part of his helmet squishes down for the transformation, but it likes to stay about here, which is a bit frustrating. You might pose him, go back to your display, and it's down like that for no apparent reason, just due to gravity. Now this guy is a big boy, which is going to make it very difficult for me to show everything right now. He is like 12 inches tall, not including his barrel that you see hangs up even higher. And much like my Minnesota review, this guy is just no fun to play with. I'm not even gonna lie. Any review where you hear the person just praising this guy, they are either it's an old review and maybe it was exciting to them at the time, but this thing has always been frustrating me. And you see this arm, it's like you move one thing and something else just rocks out of place due to the weight of its fusion cannon. And I'm just gonna take it off right now. He doesn't like to stand up straight. It makes him lean to this side right here. But let me take this out of his hand and let you get a good look at him. Here he is just standing up, and I'm gonna have to stand up so I can turn him around, but that's what he looks like from the front. Here's a side view. Here's the back. You see all this kibble hanging off, or lack of kibble right there. But he has these gun pieces right there, and his metal spine exposed just like the original G1 toy. And this thing hanging off, which becomes part of his gun mode. And yeah, anyone in the world that complains about this guy right here, I admit he has his problems, but look at that. I mean, anyone who says, oh, I'm good with my masterpiece Megatron, they're smoking, or they just don't want to pay for another Megatron, because this thing right here, I mean, he weighs even more. than this guy. Let's go over articulation. His neck is on a ball joint and it rotates 360. His shoulder has that much outward motion. You can rotate 360 on a soft ratchet. His double jointed elbows, but you have to turn his arm like this before you can use that range of motion. He has no bicep swivel. These panels are on ball joint to give him more beefier shoulders, and they like to pop off all the time. The wrist can go in and out like that. I already just talked about the fingers. No waist articulation at all. The hips can bend outward that much before they bump. These panels too always pop off. He can kick forward that much. He can kick all the way back. He has, good luck keeping that together, thigh swivel, which is nice. He has upper knee swivel. He has double jointed knees that are super scary tight to plastic. He has nice double jointed knees, but it's very hard to get him in an actual pose that he can use these double jointed knees. And these knees are made out of a scary thin plastic that I hear people break theirs. Mine hasn't broken, and I've played with this thing trying to force it to get into a good pose, and mine's haven't broke. And now we have the feet. They lift up. They have this little panel that you have to lift up to give him a G1 cartoon look. And he has ankle pivot this way. I guess it's on a ball joint. I guess he can kick forward if you need him to that much, but you have to flatten this panel. And if you're looking at his feet, here's a #1 problem of this toy. You get it, and this is nice, shiny, and silver, and it's die-cast metal. A year later, you go to play with them, and it's all rusted and nasty. I mean, I almost don't even want to touch that right there. Any part of his die-cast, even in his back right there, all of that is rusted and nasty, which is very, very unfortunate. Like, I think they fixed it, I've heard, but any one of these that's the first run versions of the first year they came out is going to be rusted, which is very freaking unfortunate. Here he is with Crimzeek, so you can see what size he is compared to him. And let me put the fusion cannon back on, because Megatron is supposed to have a fusion cannon. But yeah, there's that. Let me bring Apollyon back out here. Here is Masterpiece Megatron next to X-Transbot's Apollyon. And I'm going to be honest, I tried like crazy to get him to stand straight with that fusion cannon on, but it's not happening, and I'm not going to drive myself crazy. But anywho, you can see the height difference between the two. Apollyon fits in way more with the more modern Masterpiece figures they're coming out with, but Megatron was the height of the original MPO1 Masterpiece Optimus Prime at the time. But unfortunately, as you can see, this guy looks like a Masterpiece version of the original G1 toy, whereas this looks like a Masterpiece version of the G1 cartoon. It might have some toy elements in there, but that's because the cartoon had toy elements. But as you can see, like, if I had to choose, I honestly, right here in the middle of my review before transformation, I can't even recommend buying this guy. If you want Megatron, a real Masterpiece Megatron, you gotta get him. I mean, just the proportions are way better. The legs, the arms, like the range of motion in the shoulders, actually being able to move him around without something falling off or closing or shutting. Now, I admit this fusion cannon likes to come off really easy just because of that small connection. But, phew, and he has a waist. 360 waist. And the legs, you don't have to fight with him to pose. Oh my gosh, it's just so far superior. And the fingers, I mean, I'll let you see the review on this guy. But anywho, there's that comparison. Let me, and pray for me, let me get to this transformation. But before transformation, here's a cool thing. Here are these guns again. This is Masterpiece Megatron's gun. And here's Apollyon's little gun. And they look very, very similar. This one gets more points because you can actually see a trigger right there. And this little right finger part right there, which will be on a real gun. And it has more details down there as far as paint. And it has an open barrel, even though they're very, very close to the same length. But Apollyon's is thicker. That's what she said. Anyhow, there's that. Let's get to this transformation. Transformation. Oh boy. Take the fusion cannon off because it's just gonna get in a daggone way. Drop it across the floor because it makes you seem even more drunk than you've been throughout this whole review. Put the fingers in like that, keep the thumb up like that, and put it right there. Shut that. This panel has already shut because it likes shutting anyway. Do the same over here. Close that. Now we can push this face down, which is kind of cool how that collapses. It looks like it makes his face shrink, which is really interesting. Pull this up over top of there, and that gives him a more G1 Megatron head right there, except his face is covered. Go ahead and pull this whole thing out of there and just basically get it out of the way for now. The shoulders. These panels are probably going to pop off. Go ahead and, yeah, pop off. Squeeze this down right here and it will detach from up there. It stays secure. Do the same thing over here. Slide it down and everything detaches. Put the panel back on, or while the panel's off. There's some little teeth in here that are hard to grab while the panel's on. Slide that out. Put it back on the ball joint. And slide that down over there. The arms, they slide back like this. And a little groove right there. Then you accordion the elbow joint to meet up right there. Same thing over here. Bring the little teeth out. I just took the panel off again by accident, but that seems to be the only way you can do that. Accordion this. Now on the back, go ahead and slide this up. Get these parts out the way and bring this whole spine assembly right here, slide it back and get it out the way. And as you'll see, this is very reminiscent of G1 Megatron. Take this barrel, pull it over here, make it something like this, bring it down and around, smash it in there, and you're good. Here's another interesting size compression thing right there. All this is bigger than his chest right there, but when you squeeze it down, it folds in there nice and easy. Back here, go ahead and bring these forward right here. Slide this forward, and as you can see, this stuff is so rusted and nasty looking, like I said. Bring it forward like this. Bring this forward like this. Go ahead and snap the arms together. It's supposed to These little notches are supposed to go under the hair. It is very difficult. Like, in fact, it seems like I'm doing something wrong right here. In fact, let me pause. Yeah, I've done everything. I cannot get these two grooves to go under there for nothing. Anyway, bring his head up to here and clip this underneath of the lip right there. Now that's done. Bring these, unfold these. Basically, leave them hanging for the moment. Right here, which I should have did earlier, you could take this part right here and lift it up. Now with all that separated, you take his crotch panel, put that down, and bring these down like that. Rotate his barrel this way and plug his arms into the back right there. Take these, bring them back like that, and let's see, we need to plug these into this part right there. They clip into place. And since they're on ball joints, they might come off the ball. And now we start on the legs. This part right here that I didn't mention, this connects the legs to the upper body. I had to put a little piece of paper in there to widen this out so his upper body would stay attached to that. Without that, these two things were pinched and his upper body didn't stay attached. But that's something you might run into. And the main thing you want to think about when you're trying to bring this up to connect to that after you transform all of these parts down here, this little part that I mentioned needs to be facing that way. So with that in mind, you might as well go ahead and rotate his legs down like this already right now to get that done, because they're basically going to have to hinge this way. So unhinge everything right there, straighten that out. Do the same thing over here. These panels will probably fall off the side. We can go ahead and move them up or try to get them out the way right there. Phew, where to start? The foot. Go ahead, lift that up, bring this down, do that. Same thing over here. Do that. Now go ahead, decide on one of the legs, bring this trigger part forward, go ahead, bring that down, lift this up, take the foot and basically rotate it so that it can fit inside of here. Shut that, bring this down, bring this panel over here, unclip it from right here, bring it out like this, reclip it, and bring this part up under here. Now basically the lower half is done. Do the same thing over here. Bring this out like that, lift this up, turn the foot around, put it inside of there, shut it, unhinge this, clip that there, bring this down, around, and under the foot. These little parts clip together, so you slide that out over here. This is the most difficult part of the legs right here. You want to, I'm gonna move this trigger out of the way a little bit. Lift this part of his thigh up. Now bend his knee forward and back like this, and this plastic is very thin. You'll be scared you're gonna break it, but it shouldn't break. Then you accordion everything down like that. Now it should be safe to bring that trigger part back up. The same thing over here. Bend everything, bend the knee backwards, accordion it. Sometimes it fights you, and like I said, those panels will fall off of his thigh, which is frustrating. With all that smashed together, take this panel and rotate it and peg it together into there. Do the same thing over here. You might not have seen that. Rotate it like this, slide it forward, and peg it into place. Come on. Like I said, peg it into place. Why that one did it so easy and this one didn't, I have no clue. Okay, it's into place. Now this part. You want to bring this back. And just basically rotate the legs back to meet each other. Start clamping everything together. Actually, before you slide this, start clamping everything together. Oh, this is frustrating. Okay, I just did this practice before I started recording. Basically want to smash everything together. Now you bring this back this way. With it all collapsed together, go ahead and bring it like this. Attach it up front. And then it's some hinges right there. I've heard stories of people breaking that. You basically have to unhinge it underneath of the back of the body. And smash it up. And give everything a good squeeze. And he's a gun. One thing I don't like off top, this part doesn't touch that. I couldn't get this to come down to save my life. And that will bug the hell out of you because you're thinking, oh, that's not tight, that's not right. But I don't think there's anything you can do to fix it because everything else is tight. So, but basically, he is a big, giant gun. Oversized gun, but if you have big enough hands, you can put your finger around the whole handle. I can't touch my thumb to my finger and still pull that trigger, which doesn't click or do anything remotely fun. It doesn't shoot anything. Let's get his barrel. His scope. Here he is with the scope. I don't believe you can see through that. No, you can't see through that. And one thing I forgot to mention, there's a little button right here that shoots out a red laser. These batteries are 7 years old and they're still good. You can push this in and then turn the knob a little bit and it will actually stay on, which is cool. And that light is bright. And that looks nice. It's hypnotic. Subscribe. Share T-Man's video. Anywho, this is a nice gun. This is about the best part of this whole set. And I like it for that, at least. I'm not going to do a comparison between Apollyon and this guy in a gun mode because he takes entirely too long to transform and I just don't feel like doing it. I'm going to be honest. But I'll do you guys a solid and do G1 Megatron. Let's see how close they got it. And it does really look like a blown up version, except the P38 symbol right here actually says Walther right there. The safety doesn't move on here, whereas it does right there. This has an actual handle right there. I don't know what that's for. This just has a molded in detail right there. But it's really close. They even have these little things on the scope that I didn't mention that this one has for the little Microman that this didn't have anything to do with by the time it became a Transformer. Anywho, all in all, my thoughts on this. If you like the gun mode is a cool, oversized Megatron gun. It doesn't come with the stock the extension piece for the barrel or the stock for the back. But it's a cool gun. Robot mode, I just have to be honest, it's a train wreck. And I can't even recommend going out, unless you just need to have every masterpiece figure there is, buy this guy. But if you want to have a fun figure, no, I can't even recommend this. If you enjoyed this review, give me a like, subscribe, share, make sure to comment. T-Man978, out of here.